assuming that these are mothers
degree?
who aren't educated. I mean, I'm talking about women who make that.
Of them.
I don't know that you can.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you a fact. That child is 4 times as likely to grow up in poverty. We, as a society, have an obligation to do what's necessary to stop that cycle from occurring.
So how to the Republican Party? They should be out there regularly applauding Planned Parenthood.
What's up, YouTube? Poor Man Podcast back with another video. Give me the HBO special. That's a Help a Brother Out special. Hit the like and the subscribe button for more content. Let's get right into the video.
The quotes that we've sort of gotten from the research is that you sort of feel that there is not actually a war on women, but there may be a war on what's inside of women. Is that accurate?
Yeah, the babies. I mean, we're killing babies all over the place. And, you know, we should be, I think people can probably understand. In my case, I spent my entire career trying to preserve life and give people quality of life, even operating on babies in the womb, operating all night long sometimes on premature babies. And I get to meet those people, you know, when they're adults and productive adults. There is no way you can convince me that they're not important, that they're just a mass of cells and that you can do anything to them.
I want to ask you this. Have you met with the women who have to make these horrendous decisions when they have to make them of whether or not they can bring a child into the world? I mean, we talk about bringing children into the world all the time, but periodically, some women feel, I just can't. And are you empathetic to them? Because we just had
empathetic.
Oh, good. Go ahead, sorry.
Very empathetic, and what I have said is that this is a job for us in the private sector. What we need to do is make sure that we provide adequate daycare centers for these mothers so that they can get their GED, their associate's degree, their bachelor's degree, their master's degree.
You're assuming that these are mothers who aren't educated. I mean, I'm talking about women who make that.
Of them.
I don't know that you can.
Let me tell you a fact. Let me tell you a fact.
I don't know much about Ben Carson outside of the fact that he's a neurosurgeon and he's associated with the Republican Party. But did y'all hear how everybody had a sound of disappointment when he merely suggested most of the women that are affected by single motherhood aren't women that are in the middle or upper class that come from these bourgeoisie liberal arts schools and they are living the sexy life in New York and they just like to go out and have cocktails. I'm 27, I'm living this life. That's not the majority of the women that are affected. Majority of the women that are affected by these decisions are women that are poor, are women that are not educated, are women that do not have their father in their lives. And this is why this message being pushed of sexual liberation is so negligent. Sure, if you're Whoopi Goldberg and you make $200,000 an episode on The View, yeah, you can be sexually liberated because the consequences are nullified. You have the money and the means to be able to take care of the situation. If you're Brittany Renner, sure, you could promote open sexuality and just go out and free yourself as a woman, and this is freedom, and this is what it means to be powerful. Sure, you can promote that when you have a condo in LA, when you get paid $5,000 to show up at a club and shake your butt a little bit. But the people that are affected by and large by the message that you put out of sexual liberation are poor, young, uneducated girls that do not have a father in their family. Most of the women that are affected by this are already at a disadvantage, and then they go and buy a $250,000 Lamborghini. That's what having a child is in America. From 0 to 18, it requires $250,000 to raise a child. And I don't think raising a child ends at 18. And sure, there's a level of parenting that is necessary. It's not Brittany Renner's fault because you as a parent have to be there and have to teach your children the consequences of sleeping with random people, especially your daughters, because they bear the bulk of the consequences. They are the ones that's going to have their bodies destroyed from pregnancy. They are the ones that are statistically speaking going to become single mothers. They are the ones that are going to be at all of the disadvantages of having the child, so they bear the bulk of the consequences. Make sure your daughters understand how dire it is sleeping with random men, and that's the parent's responsibility. Let's just be completely honest. If I'm a single mother and I'm working 2 jobs because I'm trying to raise my child because I went out and made a horrible decision when I was about her age, and while I'm working those 2 jobs, she's getting, let's just be honest, she's getting raised by the state. And since our government has incentivized this idea of single motherhood, we have to now try to correct that. How do we do that? We have to educate these children by the state. There has to be some kind of education that is promoted to young girls so that they understand that getting pregnant is not the move. They learn the true disadvantage of sexual liberation. Stop promoting this stuff as if it's empowering to girls in school, and teach them the consequences of it. And if they want to do it because they believe it's empowering, let them make the decision. But let them make an educated decision where they're taught the actual consequences of their behavior. A lot of these girls aren't taught the consequences because they don't have anybody to teach them. All they have is Brittany Renner saying, oh, it's powerful for women to go out and sleep with men. And then next thing you know, they end up pregnant in a situation where they bought a $250,000 Lamborghini that they can't afford. And it's sad because I've seen this happen. I've seen it happen to good people. People that were on the right track, but then this happened and they decided to have the child, as they should, in my opinion. And I'll give my opinion on the whole matter later as far as getting rid of children for the YouTube algorithm. But I've seen this happen to good people. They go and they have these children, and then they have to live in scarcity. What that means is that 18 years old, 17 years old, you don't have any applicable job skills. You don't have any degrees. So you go and you get hired at McDonald's. You go and you work at McDonald's for $12 an hour because you have to put food on the table for your child. And the big problem with that is while other people are going and getting degrees and developing their skills so they can go out and get better jobs, you're stuck at McDonald's. Sure, you're a productive person, but you don't have any applicable skills outside of salt and fries. So the scarcity mindset continues. Now you're the mother that's out there working 2 jobs to provide for the 2 kids that you have, and then one of them goes off and gets pregnant. And by the way, if a child doesn't have the father in her life, she's 3 times more likely to get pregnant before the age of 18.
The fact is, a lot of those young girls who are having babies out of wedlock, when they have that first baby,
about them,
they stop their education.
Who are you talking
and that
about?
child is 4 times as likely to grow up in poverty. We as a society have an obligation to do what's necessary to stop that cycle from occurring.
So how important is birth control then to the Republican Party? They should be out there regularly applauding Planned Parenthood for supplying birth control, mammograms, and everything else. Why are they against Planned Parenthood? Are you against birth control, too?
I don't speak for the Republican Party. I speak for me.
Okay, for yourself. Are you against birth control also?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
And this is what irritates me the most about this conversation. Number one, to my knowledge, Planned Parenthood doesn't offer mammograms. Everybody tries to make this a political debate. And my opinion on the whole topic is, okay, this is my opinion on ending babies, okay, for the algorithm. You got to always say that because, you know, YouTube be tripping. But this is my opinion on ending babies. Do I believe it should happen? No. But that's a should, right? And I don't like to live in a world of shoulds. I like to live in a world of what actually is real. And the reality is that it is legal. So people are going to do whatever they want to do. And if you look at my content, really, I don't care what people do. Do whatever you want to do as long as you're willing to deal with the consequences and not blame the consequences of your personal decisions on society. With that being said, you have to know the consequences in order to make an educated decision. And that's what I like to do in my content. I like to deal with things proactively instead of reactively. I like to try to educate people on the consequences of making certain decisions. I don't want you to have one, and as a woman, you shouldn't want to have one. So I don't understand why there's this political back and forth as of what's right and wrong. We should all understand that it ain't great. With that being said, let's stop teaching our 13-year-olds that sexual liberation is powerful and start teaching them the actual reality of what it does to your body and what it does to your future. We need to start educating young girls about contraceptives. And I say specifically young girls because young girls are the ones that have to deal with the bulk of the consequences when it comes to pregnancy and being sexually promiscuous. Unfortunately, nature has this rule. This isn't the patriarchy. Nature has this rule of pregnancy. That's something exclusive to girls that have the XX chromosome. If you ask a feminist about contraceptives, they'll go, well, why don't men get vasectomies and vasectomies and all these things? Why don't they? It's because the women deal with the bulk of the consequences. That's why you have the bulk of the options when it comes to contraceptives. You're given the resources by the quote-unquote patriarchy in order to be sexually liberated, but to be sexually liberated responsibly. And a lot of people are just choosing not to be responsible when it comes to this stuff. And I think that when we're talking about minors falling into that trap, it's probably because of a lack of education. We have condoms, we have Plan Bs, we have contraceptives. We need to teach them about using these tools if they're going to go out and be sexually active. We need to stop brushing these conversations off as if they're not important and then having to go to the extreme situation when we find out that our 17-year-old daughter is pregnant because we never really taught her the consequences of having or sleeping with men. But sometimes that stuff affects a woman's body. She can get blood clots. Have you ever seen pregnancy and how that affects a woman's body? If you don't want to deal with the consequences of using birth control, your other option is to not sleep around. I don't suggest that because people think that that's a crazy thought nowadays. But if you don't want to take the consequences of using birth control, don't sleep around, or you're going to have to deal with the consequences, and the consequences are single motherhood. So to sum it all up, do I believe in it? No. Do I believe it should happen? No. But I understand dealing with this situation isn't just going to be illegalizing the act, because people are still going to find more dangerous ways in order to deal with this situation however they see fit. I think the best solution is to actually educate people and teach people to be responsible about their bodies and teach people how much BS sexual liberation truly is. Till next time.
My boo, I'm just here for the rendezvous, and I came the whole damn groove, cause I've been feeling like you want me to. He say stop saying I'm so I can't hold myself when I pull up.